My wife said she wasn't moving to that small town for my job. I said I understood. Translation, see you never. The rental house in Millbrook, Maine smelled like old wood and decades of other people's cooking, but it was mine, all mine. I cracked open a beer after my first shift at Henderson's hardware store and sat on the sagging porch, watching the sunset over a main street that looked like it peaked sometime in 1987. 3 bars, 2 churches, 1 diner, and a gas station that still had analog pumps. Perfect. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. You settling in okay, Brian? My neighbor, Mrs. Kowalski, called from her garden. She was 70 if she was a day, with hands like leather and eyes that missed nothing. Getting there, I said, raising my beer in salute. Your wife coming up soon? Doubt it. She's more of a city person. Mrs. Kowalski nodded knowingly. My Harold was like that. Wanted the bright lights. I told him, Harold, you can have your bright lights. I'm staying where I can see the stars. I liked Mrs. Kowalski. What I didn't tell her was that Rebecca, my elegant yoga instructor wife with her designer athleisure and her carefully curated Instagram feed, had looked at me like I'd suggested we move to Mars when I mentioned the hardware store manager position. You want to leave Boston for... where? Millbrook? Brian, there's probably more people in our gym than in that entire town. That's kind of the point, I'd said. Well, I'm not going. My studio is here, my friends are here, my life is here. I understand. That conversation happened 3 months ago. I'd packed my truck, driven north, and hadn't looked back. The divorce papers were drafted but not filed. I was in no rush. Let her stew in the condo we couldn't really afford, with her fake friends and her overpriced juice cleanses. I should have known it wouldn't be that simple. The text started 2 weeks after I moved. Casual at first. Hey, how's the new place? Thinking about you. Can we talk? I ignored most of them. Responded to a few with one-word answers. Rebecca had made her choice, and I'd made mine. But she kept pushing, kept reaching out, and I started to wonder what her angle was. Then I got the video. It was late on a Thursday, and I was at Murphy's Bar, the local dive that smelled like beer and sawdust. I was shooting pool with some guys from work when my phone buzzed. A message from Rebecca. I almost didn't open it. The video was only 15 seconds long, but it told me everything I needed to know. Rebecca, in our bedroom, well, her bedroom now, wearing a silk robe I'd bought her for Christmas. And a man's voice, off camera, laughing. You think he even cares that you're texting him? Brian's too pathetic to do anything about it. Rebecca's voice, slightly slurred. Wine drunk. He ran away to his little town like a coward. Good riddance, the man said, and then the video cut off. My hand tightened around my phone. The guys I was playing pool with noticed. You okay, man? That was Tommy, one of the stock guys at the store. Good kid, early 20s, still thought life was fair. Yeah, I said. Just remembered something I need to take care of. I finished my beer, paid my tab, and walked out into the cool Maine night. My truck was parked under a streetlight that flickered like it was considering giving up entirely. I sat in the driver's seat, staring at my phone. The video had been an accident. Rebecca meant to send it to someone else, probably her best friend Nicole, the real estate agent with the shark smile and the designer handbags. They'd been friends since college, thick as thieves, always whispering and giggling like teenagers. I replayed the video. The man's voice was familiar. It took me a minute, but then I placed it. Daniel Thornton. Rebecca's friend from her old gym. The one who drove a BMW X5 and wore cologne that probably cost more than my weekly paycheck. The one she'd insisted was just a friend when I'd asked about him 6 months ago. I sat in my truck for a long time, watching that video over and over. Not because I was heartbroken. That ship had sailed when Rebecca told me she wouldn't move with me, but because I was angry. Angry at the betrayal, sure, but more angry at the casual cruelty of it. The pathetic comment. The coward comment. You want to see what this coward can do? I thought. I started the truck and headed south, toward Boston. The drive took 4 hours. I had plenty of time to think, to plan, to talk myself out of what I was about to do. I didn't talk myself out of it. Daniel lived in a high-rise in the Seaport district, the kind of place with a doorman and a gym and probably a rooftop pool. His BMW was parked in the underground garage, gleaming under the fluorescent lights like it had just been detailed. I'd been to this garage before. Rebecca and I had attended a party Daniel threw last year, back when I still thought he was just an annoying acquaintance. The security cameras were positioned at the entrance and exit, but there were blind spots near the support columns. I parked my truck 3 levels up and walked down. It was 2 in the morning. The garage was silent except for the hum of ventilation fans. Daniel's BMW sat in its assigned spot, perfect and pristine. I pulled out my keys and dragged them along the driver's side, a long, deep scratch that would cost thousands to fix. Then I did the passenger side, then the hood. It felt good, better than it should have. I left a note under the windshield wiper. "Enjoy your ride, asshole." Then I went back to my truck and waited. I didn't have to wait long. Around 3:30, the elevator dinged and 2 figures emerged. Rebecca, in a dress I'd never seen before, and Daniel, his arm around her waist. They were laughing about something. I took out my phone and started recording. They didn't notice me. They were too wrapped up in each other. Daniel opened the passenger door for Rebecca, "The gentleman?" and then walked around to the driver's side. That's when he saw the scratches. "What the hell?" Rebecca got out. "What's wrong?" "Someone keyed my car. Someone keyed my goddamn car." "Oh my God," Rebecca said, and she actually sounded concerned. For the car, not for the fact that her husband might know about her affair. Daniel found the note. I watched his face turn red even from 3 levels up. He crumpled it and threw it on the ground. "It was him," Daniel said. "It was your pathetic husband." "Brian? No way. He's in Maine. He doesn't even care." "Then who else would do this?" They argued for a few minutes. I got it all on video. Then I started my truck and drove away, taking the exit on the opposite side of the garage. I was almost back to the entrance ramp for the highway when I saw her. Nicole. She was standing on the sidewalk outside Daniel's building, smoking a cigarette and staring right at me. Our eyes met for just a second, but it was enough. She smiled. Not a friendly smile, but the kind of smile a cat gives a mouse before it pounces. Then I was past her, merging onto the highway, my heart pounding. Nicole knew, Nicole had seen me, and Nicole was going to tell Rebecca. I drove back to Millbrook with the windows down and the radio off, my mind racing. I'd wanted to send a message, to let them know I wasn't as pathetic as they thought, but now I'd shown my hand, and I had a feeling things were about to get complicated. I was right. The call started the next day. First Rebecca, screaming about vandalism and lawyers and restraining orders. I let it go to voicemail. Then Nicole, her voice calm and cold. "Brian, we need to talk. What you did last night was unacceptable. Rebecca is very upset. I think we should meet and discuss this like adults." I deleted the message. Then Daniel called. "You think you're tough? Keying my car like some punk teenager?" "I know where you live, buddy. Don't think I won't come up there and—" I hung up. At work, Tommy noticed I was distracted. "Everything okay, man? You seem stressed." "Just some stuff with my ex," I said. We were unpacking a shipment of power tools, organizing them on the shelves. Henderson's hardware store was old school, the kind of place where the owner, Bill Henderson, knew every customer by name and still used a paper ledger for inventory. "Ex-wife?" Tommy asked. "Soon to be." "She giving you trouble?" "You could say that." Tommy nodded sympathetically. "My brother went through a nasty divorce. His ex tried to take everything, the house, the car, even the dog. It was brutal." "Yeah, well, my ex is trying to play the victim, saying I'm unstable or whatever." "Are you?" I looked at him. "What do you think?" Tommy grinned. "I think you're the sanest guy I know, but that's not saying much in this town." That night, I went to Murphy's bar. The place was packed for a Thursday, which meant about 15 people. I ordered a whiskey and sat in the corner, watching the locals play darts and argue about the Red Sox. Mrs. Kowalski's son, Eddie, slid onto the stool next to me. Eddie was in his 40s, a mechanic with grease permanently embedded under his fingernails and a laugh that could shake the rafters. "Heard you had some excitement down in Boston," Eddie said. I raised an eyebrow. News travels fast. "Small town, Brian. Everybody knows everything. Mrs. Patterson at the post office has a cousin who works security at some fancy building in the seaport. Saw you on the cameras." "Great. Just great." "I didn't do anything illegal," I said. "Didn't say you did? Just said you had some excitement?" Eddie grinned. "Personally, I think it's hilarious. Some city boy thinks he can mess with one of ours? Nah, you did good." "I'm not from here," I pointed out. "You're here now. That makes you one of ours." I didn't know what to say to that, so I bought Eddie a beer and we talked about other things, the Patriots, the weather, the new stoplight the town council was arguing about. But Eddie's words stuck with me. "You're one of ours." I'd never had that before. In Boston, I was just another face in the crowd. Here, in Millbrook, I was starting to belong, and that gave me an idea. Over the next few days, I did some digging. Not hacking, nothing illegal, just good old-fashioned gossip and public records. Millbrook might be small, but the locals knew how to gather information. I learned that Daniel wasn't just a gym rat with too much money. He ran a consulting firm that did business development for tech startups. Fancy words for schmoozing investors and skimming fees off the top. Nothing criminal, but definitely shady. I also learned that Nicole, Rebecca's best friend, had lost her real estate license 3 years ago. Something about misrepresenting property values and pocketing deposits. She'd reinvented herself as a lifestyle consultant, whatever that meant. And Rebecca? Rebecca had been posting on social media about her abusive husband who abandoned her. My face wasn't in the photos, but anyone who knew us would know who she was talking about. I showed the post to Eddie one night at Murphy's. "That's messed up," Eddie said, scrolling through Rebecca's Instagram. "She's making you look like a monster." "Yeah. You gonna let her get away with that?" I took a sip of my whiskey. No, I'm not." Eddie grinned. "Good. What do you need?" "Information, and maybe a little help." "You got it." It turned out that small-town networks were more efficient than any private investigator. Within a week, Eddie and his friends had compiled a dossier on Daniel that would make a tabloid journalist jealous. Daniel was cheating on his wife, not just with Rebecca, but with at least 2 other women. He was also funneling money from his consulting firm into a personal account. Not illegal, but definitely unethical. And he had a habit of parking in handicapped spaces and berating waitstaff. "Guy's a real piece of work," Eddie said, handing me a folder full of printouts and photos. We were in his garage, surrounded by half-disassembled cars and the smell of motor oil. "How did you get all this?" I asked. Eddie shrugged. "My cousin works at the restaurant Daniel likes. My buddy's wife is friends with Daniel's secretary, and Tommy's brother does IT work for Daniel's firm. Like I said, small-town networks." I flipped through the folder. It was a gold mine. "What are you going to do with it?" Eddie asked. "I'm going to ruin him," I said. The plan was simple. I'd leak Daniel's indiscretions to his wife, his boss, and his clients. I'd expose Rebecca's lies on social media, and I'd make sure everyone knew exactly what kind of people they were. But first, I needed to deal with Nicole. Nicole had been calling me every few days, her tone getting progressively more threatening. "You need to stop this, Brian. You're only making things worse for yourself. Rebecca is willing to settle the divorce amicably, but you need to back off." I finally agreed to meet her. We met at a coffee shop in Portland, halfway between Millbrook and Boston. Nicole was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with a latte and her phone. She looked up and smiled that shark smile. "Brian, thanks for coming." "Let's make this quick," I said, sitting down. "What do you want?" "I want you to stop harassing Rebecca and Daniel, the vandalism, the stalking, the threats. It needs to stop." "I haven't threatened anyone." "You keyed Daniel's car." "Prove it." Nicole's smile didn't waver. "Brian, you're not as clever as you think you are. There are cameras everywhere, security footage, witnesses. If you keep this up, Rebecca will have no choice but to file a restraining order, maybe even press charges." "Let her try." Nicole leaned forward. "You're angry. I get it. But this isn't the way to handle it. Sign the divorce papers, walk away, and everyone can move on with their lives." "Is that what you want? For everyone to move on?" "Of course." I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table between us. "Then why did you help Rebecca cheat on me?" Nicole's smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" "I know you introduced Rebecca to Daniel. I know you've been covering for her, lying to me about where she was and who she was with. You're not just her friend, Nicole. You're her accomplice." "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" I leaned back, watching her. "You know what I think? I think you wanted my marriage to fall apart. I think you've been sabotaging it from the start." Nicole's eyes narrowed. "You're paranoid." "Maybe, or maybe you're still mad about that real estate deal." Her face went pale. Bingo. 3 years ago, I'd been looking to buy an investment property. Nicole had shown me a condo in Cambridge, swearing it was a great deal, but something felt off, so I did my own research. Turns out the building had major structural issues that Nicole had conveniently failed to mention. I reported her to the state licensing board, and she lost her license. "You cost me my career," Nicole said quietly. "You cost yourself your career by being a liar. And now you're paying for it." There it was, the admission I needed. I'd been recording the conversation on my phone the whole time. Nicole realized her mistake a second too late. Her eyes flicked to my phone, and her face went from pale to red. "You're recording this?" "Yep, that's illegal." "Actually, in Massachusetts, only one party needs to consent to a recording, and I consent." I picked up my phone and stood. Thanks for the confession, Nicole. I'll be sure to share it with Rebecca. I walked out, leaving Nicole sitting there, her latte untouched. Things moved quickly after that. I sent the recording to Rebecca with a simple message. Your best friend set you up. Then I sent Daniel's dossier to his wife, his boss, and his top 3 clients. I didn't add any commentary. I didn't need to. The facts spoke for themselves. Finally, I created a website. Nothing fancy, just a simple page with screenshots of Rebecca's social media posts about her abusive husband, side by side with photos of her and Daniel together, time-stamped to show she'd been cheating long before I moved to Millbrook. I added the recording of Nicole's confession and a brief explanation of what had happened, then I shared the link. Everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Reddit. I even printed out flyers and left them at Murphy's bar, the diner, and the hardware store. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Rebecca called me, screaming, "You bastard! You're ruining my life." "Funny," I said. "I was thinking the same thing about you." "Take it down. Take it all down." "No. I'll sue you." "Go ahead. Everything on that site is true. You can't sue someone for telling the truth." She hung up. Daniel called next. "You're finished, Brian. You hear me? Finished." "Is that a threat?" "Because I'm recording this call, too." He hung up. Nicole didn't call. She didn't need to. Her reputation was already in tatters. Within hours, her lifestyle consulting business had lost half its clients, and her social media accounts were flooded with angry comments. But I wasn't done yet. The town of Millbrook was having its annual summer festival that weekend, a big event with food trucks, live music, and a stage in the town square where local politicians gave speeches and businesses advertised their services. Bill Henderson had signed up the hardware store for a booth, and he'd asked me to help run it. I had a better idea. On the day of the festival, I showed up early and talked to the organizer, a friendly woman named Carol who ran the local library. I told her I wanted to make an announcement from the stage, something about the hardware store's upcoming sale. Carol was happy to oblige. "Sure, Brian. We've got a slot at 2:00. Just keep it short and sweet." "Will do." At 2:00, I climbed onto the stage. The square was packed with families, kids running around with cotton candy, couples browsing the vendor booths. The local band had just finished their set, and people were milling around, waiting for the next event. I tapped the microphone. "Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Sawyer, and I manage Henderson's hardware store here in town." A few people clapped politely. "I'm not here to talk about the store, though. I'm here to talk about honesty." That got their attention. The crowd quieted down, people turning to look at me. A few months ago, I moved to Millbrook to start a new life. I left behind a wife who didn't want to come with me, and that was fine. But what wasn't fine was finding out she'd been cheating on me, lying to me, and then trying to destroy my reputation when I called her out on it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I saw Mrs. Kowalski near the front, her arms crossed, nodding approvingly. "Her name is Rebecca Sawyer, and her boyfriend is Daniel Thornton. Her best friend, Nicole Hayes, helped cover it up. And when I found out, they tried to paint me as the bad guy." I pulled out my phone and connected it to the stage's sound system. "I want you to hear something." I played the recording of Nicole's confession, her voice echoing across the square. Then I played a recording of Daniel's threatening phone call. Finally, I showed screenshots of Rebecca's social media posts, blown up on the big screen behind me. The crowd was silent now, riveted. "I'm not telling you this for sympathy," I said. "I'm telling you this because I'm tired of people like Rebecca, Daniel, and Nicole getting away with their lies. I'm tired of being called pathetic and a coward when all I did was try to build a better life." I paused, looking out at the crowd. "So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to work hard, be honest, and treat people with respect. And if anyone tries to tear me down again, I'm going to fight back. Not with fists, not with violence, but with the truth." I stepped back from the microphone. The crowd erupted in applause. Not everyone. Some people looked uncomfortable, unsure how to react, but enough. Enough to make it clear that Millbrook had my back. Carol came up to me as I left the stage. "That was unexpected. Sorry if I overstepped." "Are you kidding? That was the most exciting thing to happen at this festival in 20 years. People are going to be talking about this for months." She was right. By the end of the day, the video of my speech had been shared hundreds of times online. Local news outlets picked it up. A reporter from the Portland Press-Herald called me for an interview, and Rebecca, Daniel, and Nicole? They were finished. Daniel's wife filed for divorce and took him for everything he had. His boss fired him after clients started pulling their contracts. Last I heard, he was working at a car dealership in New Hampshire, selling used sedans. Nicole's business collapsed entirely. She moved out of state, trying to rebuild her reputation somewhere no one knew her name. And Rebecca? Rebecca tried to salvage things, posting apologies on social media and claiming she'd been manipulated. But no one believed her. Her yoga studio lost members. Her friends stopped returning her calls. She ended up moving back in with her parents in New Jersey. As for me, I stayed in Millbrook. I got promoted to assistant manager at Henderson's hardware store. I bought a house, a real house, not a rental, with a big backyard and a garage where I could work on my truck. I started dating a woman named Laura who taught at the local elementary school. She was smart, funny, and had no interest in Instagram or designer handbags. Life was good. One evening, about 6 months after the festival, I was sitting on my porch with a beer, watching the sun set over the mountains. Mrs. Kowalski came over, carrying a plate of cookies. "Thought you might like these," she said. "Thanks, Mrs. K." I took a cookie. Chocolate chip, still warm. "You did good, Brian," she said. "Standing up for yourself like that. Harold would have been proud." "I appreciate that." She patted my shoulder and headed back to her garden. I watched her go, then took another sip of my beer. They'd called me pathetic, a coward. But in the end, I'd won. Not because I was stronger or smarter, but because I refused to let them define me. I built my life on my terms, in a town that accepted me for who I was. And that was the best revenge of all.